Imagine preparing supper with a heart full of hope, and realize that no one will show up. This is not just a sad story. It is an open wound in thousands of homes that experience the same abandonment, only in silence. You will know the true story of a humble woman who raised her children with effort, courage, and unconditional love, only 2 years later be left alone exactly on the night that most symbolizes union, Christmas. While his children enjoyed luxury, international travel, and glamorous parties, she spent the night staring at empty chairs and memories that hurt more than any missing gift. And the most shocking, she didn't ask for anything. I didn't want money, nor does it help. Only presents. Just a gesture. Just the basics that any mother deserves. But when time passed and silence became routine, she decided to do something that no one expected. Something that turned the end into a powerful beginning, even without an audience, even without a return. This story is not just about her. It's about me, about you, about everyone who, out of pride, routine, or ego, forgot that time does not wait, and that the love you don't show today, it can become the guilt that will haunt you tomorrow. Get ready, because once you've watched it to the end, you'll never look at a Christmas, or your loved one, the same way again. It was Christmas Eve. Outside, the cold cut like a razor, but inside that old wooden house, what really hurt was the silence. The lights flickered in the window as if they were trying to distract someone from her absence, but she was not fooled. Her name was Margaret, 76, hair as white as snow piled up on the railing, calloused hands and a heart as full of love as the bag of gifts she prepared in advance. In times when everyone runs, she still believed in stopping. Stop to wait. Wait for the children. Wait for the family. Wait for a gesture. Only. Not every wait ends with a door opening. Margaret was never a woman of luxury. She grew up in rural Kansas, where learning to sew was more important than learning to dream. Still, she dreamed. He dreamed of a full house, a full table, and the laughter of children running around the room. And for many years, she succeeded. With effort, with faith, and with far more sacrifice than anyone would have ever imagined. There was no expensive gift, but there was love. He had no trips, but he had stories told by the fireplace. Christmas, for her, was about being. Is that it? Be. And now, sitting there in her best wool dress, the one she kept only for special dates, she hoped to be with the one she loved the most. But the clock doesn't lie, and he already said, it was late. You know, sometimes our lives are made up of small rituals. She woke up early, prepared the famous roast with herbs that her children loved in childhood, decorated the tree with the same decorations kept for decades, put on the music they sang out of tune when they were little. Everything is the same. Everything perfect. Everything waiting. The phone was charged. The doorbell, working. The memories, alive. Only one thing was missing. The people. But how to explain to a mother's heart that absence is noisier than any fireworks? It's impossible. And she knew it. Next to the armchair, a photo album. In it, faded images of past Christmases. Children smiling, torn gift paper, kisses on the cheek, words like, "Mommy, I love you." At that time, it seemed like another planet. Because now, all that was left was nostalgia. And that's when we understand. Nostalgia has a smell, sound, and sometimes even taste, the bitter taste of a non-shared supper. Margaret did not cry. At least, not on the outside. But his eyes said it all. There was a mixture of hope and resignation there, as if he knew that maybe that Christmas would be only hers. It's strange how Christmas changes meaning over time. For children, it's a gift. For teenagers, it's fraternization. For adults, it's commitment. But for those who have lived a lot, like Margaret, Christmas is a memory. And few things hurt more than a happy memory in a sad present. The contrast is like a poorly done painting. The background is beautiful, but the line is blurred. Still, she kept a smile on her face, as if insisting on being a lighthouse, even when the sea is too calm to need light. And have you ever thought about it? How many times do we ignore an invitation, postpone a visit, fail to answer a call, with the certainty that next Christmas we will go? But is it? What if there is no next one? Margaret believed in others. He always believed. But that night, as the snow fell silently outside, something inside her began to understand that maybe love also ages. And when we take too long, he can get tired of waiting. Even the strongest of loves. It is curious how the details gain voice when the heart is silent. The sound of the clock ticking, the kettle beeping in the kitchen, the crackling of the wood in the heated house. Everything seemed to scream the absence. Margaret looked at every corner, as if she still expected to see one of them appear out of nowhere. The carpet at the entrance, clean. The cutlery placed with care. The socks hanging from the fireplace. And the gift she bought in secret, even though she knew that perhaps no one would come to pick it up. It wasn't about the present. It was about the gesture. About the, I remembered you. But, and when no one remembers, not all Christmas sparkle comes from the lights. Some come from tears. That phrase isn't on any famous store card, but it should. Because that's exactly what happens when the most magical date of the year becomes the quietest. Margaret felt her chest tighten, but she didn't give up. She still had faith. Because one thing she has learned throughout her life, as much as all seems lost, a small spark of hope can ignite the coldest heart. And that night, something unexpected was about to happen. Margaret was never the kind of woman who expected things to fall from the sky. Since she was a girl, she understood that life charged early and paid late. He grew up among wheat fields and dirt streets, in a small American town where everyone knew everyone's name. Her father died when she was still playing with dolls, and her mother, a seamstress, became a silent example of strength and dignity. It was with her that he learned that honor is not in the clothes, but in the word. While other girls learned ballet, Margaret helped wash clothes in the river and cooked for her younger siblings. Childhood passed quickly, like a wind that does not warn when it is leaving. At 17, she met the one she thought was the love of her life. They married early, as the custom of the time dictated, and soon their children came. 2 boys and a girl. But fate, this damned unpredictable, did not follow the script she wrote in thought. Her husband abandoned the family when the youngest was not even speaking properly. No letter, no explanation. It disappeared like smoke. And that's when she had to become what she never imagined. Father, mother, support, shelter, support, hug and wall. All at the same time. There are people who break with less. But Margaret, it has shaped itself. She worked everything. She was a cleaner, bakery attendant, seamstress, nanny, laundress. He never complained, even when his body asked for rest. He had a motto: if it's to fall, let it be on its feet. And so she went on. Time was short, but love was long. Every night, even when tired, she told her children bedtime stories, sometimes invented, sometimes based on the memories of her own youth. And even without money, he made the home a place of safety. Anyone who passed by Margaret's house smelled hot soup, cake in the oven, and dignity in the air. Faith was his secret fuel. She wasn't the type to knock on the church door every week, but she talked to God every day, while hanging up laundry, cooking, or walking to work. He did not ask for wealth. He asked for strength. He did not ask for miracles. He asked for breath. And God, somehow, always commanded, whether in the form of a neighbor who helped with the shopping, a temporary vacancy that became a permanent job, or a look of gratitude coming from one of the children at the end of a difficult day. It is curious how faith hides in the details. Christmas, in that house, has always had a special meaning. Even with little, she made it look like a lot. He would pick up dry branches and decorate them with handmade ribbons. The socks were old, but they came to life with small sweets and affectionate notes. She taught her children that more important than what you receive is what you offer. Christmas is when we choose to love, even when it's hurting, she said. And those children, even without expensive toys, slept smiling. Their happiness was her payment, and that was the highest salary she knew. Today, looking back, it is easy to romanticize. But at the time, living through all of this was a real emotional battleground. There were days when she doubted herself. He cried hidden in the bathroom so as not to worry his children. But he never thought about giving up. When milk ran out, she improvised. When the power was cut off, he told stories by candlelight and turned the problem into adventure. She was not a superhero. She was just an ordinary woman, with unusual courage. And this, my friend, cannot be bought or learned in books. Many of the values that the children carried in their youth came from these simple moments. They learned by observing how she treated others, how she dealt with problems, how she smiled even with her tired soul. Margaret taught that honor is not in beautiful words, but in silent acts. Time passed, the children grew up, and she believed that they took all that with them. The problem is that the world outside, it's too noisy. And sometimes, this noise makes us forget the most important voices, those who created us. But the curious thing about life is that even when you plant love, you don't always reap immediate recognition. Margaret knew this, but she believed that one day, her children would understand what she did for them. And it is this silent faith, perhaps even naive, that kept that flame inside her alive. But as time went by, hugs decreased, calls became rarer, and Christmas, well, Christmas was losing people and gaining silence. But it's history for later. Margaret's children grew up under loving discipline, the kind that teaches by example rather than by shouting. She never demanded anything from them but respect and truth. Each followed a different path. The eldest, Andrew, was the first in his family to enter university. The middle daughter, Clara, enchanted everyone with her intelligence and talent for writing. And the youngest, Ben, has always been the dreamer, the one with bold plans and a smile that won anyone over. Margaret, even with few resources, made sure that none of them stopped studying. She sold her own ring, sewed clothes until dawn, gave up everything that was hers. She just wanted to see them go further. And they went. Each one moved to a different city. They won diplomas, good opportunities, influential contacts. They grew up, financially, socially, and emotionally, moving away. In the beginning, they still called on Sundays, sent photos of their achievements, praised childhood memories. But over time, something changed. Words have become more automatic. The most sporadic meetings. The excuses, more elaborate. Margaret felt like she was missing something she had fought so hard to maintain. Connection. Not that there were fights. No rupture declared. It was something subtle but cruel. Negligence. The kind of distancing that doesn't scream, but silences. A visit canceled at the last minute. A forgotten birthday. A cold response on WhatsApp. They said they were busy, that adult life was busy, that work was too demanding. And she understood. Or at least he pretended to understand. Because a mother's heart does not discuss priorities. He just feels it. While they bought real estate, luxury cars, and traveled to exotic destinations, Margaret remained in the same little wooden house, with the same old furniture and the same kettle that beeped every morning. The photos of her children, now successful adults, were scattered around the room, but all framed by the same look, that of longing. She never asked for anything, neither money nor gifts. I just wanted presents. I just wanted to be remembered without it coming out of obligation or guilt. But success sometimes makes people selective, and they began to choose to forget where they came from. It is painful to say, but the truth is that many times those who conquer the world are ashamed of their roots. And not because those roots were bad, on the contrary, but because they remind us of a time of simplicity, of vulnerability, of raw truth. And in a world where appearance is worth more than essence, remember that someone once taught you to be honest with the little you had can become inconvenient. That was how Margaret felt, an uncomfortable reminder of the humility they once had. When the children called, rarely, the subject revolved around them. business, events, shopping. They never asked if she was okay, if she needed anything, if she slept well on cold nights. She, as always, smiled. He said that everything was great, that the winter was not so hard, that the neighbor brought fresh bread, that the spine no longer hurt. Sweet lies to not look needy. Because her pride was great, but her love, the love was even greater. On one of these rare visits, Andrew brought his wife, an elegant woman, but cold as a cold morning in Chicago. He rolled his eyes at the stained sofa, refused the cinnamon tea, and whispered something about place without structure. Margaret listened, but did not react. I knew that certain truths are not worth discussing. But that night, she cried in secret. She cried not for the criticism, but for the son who did not defend her, for his silence in the face of disrespect, for the absence of protection. And there, she understood that they had changed, more than she would like to admit. But even with all this, she still waited. He still put their names in the night prayers. He still kept the clippings of the magazines where they came out. I still prepared their favorite recipes in case they showed up by surprise. He still left the balcony light on commemorative dates. Her love was stubborn, persistent, faithful even when he was ignored. But time, my friend, charges. And that heart so resistant, it was starting to crack. It was December 24th. That kind of night when even the air seems to whisper old memories. Margaret woke up early, cheerful as a child on Christmas morning. She put on her favorite blue dress, the one with the smell of mothballs and a good memory, and arranged her hair in front of the dressing table mirror. The house was spotless. He swept every corner, dusted the frames, relit candles saved for special occasions. She prepared dinner with care, stuffed turkey, rosemary potatoes, apple pie with cinnamon, everything the children loved. On the table, 3 more dishes. She didn't know if they would come, but she prepared it as if they would. On the porch, she hung a pine tree arrangement with red ribbons that she made herself. Neighbors passed by and greeted her with distant waves. She smiled, but her gaze searched for familiar faces on the street. Inside the house, the sound of Christmas music filled the space. Silent Night played softly, like a sung prayer. She lit the fireplace, arranged the presents under the tree, and looked at the clock. 5:34 p.m. There was still time. There was still hope. She sat in the armchair with her hands crossed in her lap. Time, at that moment, seemed to have its own rhythm. Slow, dragging, merciless. At 7 p.m., anxiety began to turn into restlessness. She got up from time to check the street. Sometimes I thought I heard the sound of a car approaching. But nothing. Only the wind. Reheated the food twice. The dishes were warm. The heart, cooling. He opened the mailbox, even though he had not heard the postman. No letter. No tickets. No sign. Just the advertising notice of any store. He sat down again. The house, once full of aromas and expectation, now seemed stuffy. The smell of hope was beginning to mix with the bitter taste of disappointment. At 9 p.m., the penny began to drop, like the snow outside, silent and inevitable. The candles on the table had already melted half. The turkey cooled. The pie was already soft. And Margaret, she still resisted. He picked up the phone and, one by one, tried to contact him. He called Andrew's cell phone, voicemail. He called Clara, a call refused. Tried Ben's number, off. He looked at the device as if looking at an old friend who decided to betray. He took a deep breath, without tears. Why cry? She has cried too much for things that do not come back. But it hurt differently. It hurt like a cut that no one sees. Outside, distant voices could be heard. Laughter. Fireworks crackle. Some families gathered on the porch, children playing, fathers hugging mothers. Margaret watched everything through the window, as if watching a movie she had already watched and loved, but now has no place in history. The intact supper on the table shone brighter than her eyes. She then got up, picked up the cutlery, and for the first time in a long time, served a plate just for herself. He sat down at the table. He ate in silence. Each mouthful was like a reminder. They wouldn't come. As he ate, he looked at the empty chairs. A memory emerged. The small children, laughing, playing with the leftover flour from the pie. That came like a punch. She put down the cutlery, got up and walked to the cupboard. From inside, she pulled out a wooden box where she kept letters, old birthday cards and Mother's Day notes with crooked letters. He sat down in the armchair and began to reread each one of them. There were words like, "You are the best mother in the world. I promise never to leave you. When I grow up, I will take care of you." Irony. Beautiful words age badly when they are not fulfilled. The night went by. The wood in the fireplace was already extinguished embers. The clock was 11:59 p.m. Margaret looked up at the sky through the window. No stars, only clouds, just cold, just a Christmas that seemed not to have begun. But inside, she already knew this was a Christmas of her own. Childless. No hugs. No planned future. She covered herself with the blanket knitted by her grandmother, leaned her head against the arm of the armchair and whispered softly, "Merry Christmas, my children, wherever they are." And there, between the almost extinguished candle and the smell of cold turkey, her heart rested for a few seconds, until something unexpected happens. Dawn arrived unceremoniously, bringing with it a kind of cold that cannot be solved with a blanket. Margaret, motionless in her armchair, held the photo album in her lap as if holding the last proof that love once existed in its purest form. The yellowed pages trembled in his hands, not from the cold, but from emotion. Each image seemed to have sound, smell, texture. It was as if she could hear the laughter, feel the small hands clinging to her skirt, relive the looks of complicity. And the cruelest thing, all this still lived in her, but no one else seemed to remember. She pulled out an old letter, folded and worn at the ends. It was Ben's, written with colored pencils, crooked handwriting and a wide open heart. "Mom, when I grow up, I'm going to work hard to buy you a giant house and take you to live with me." That cut like a knife. Because he grew up, he grew. Worked. But the promise was forgotten in the same place where he kept his childhood. At the bottom of some drawer of memory, buried by bills, vanities, and distractions. Margaret pressed the paper to her chest. He closed his eyes for a moment, and she felt the echo of that love that now existed only on one side. What hurt the most was not the physical absence. It was emotional forgetfulness. It was realizing that if she left tomorrow, maybe no one would notice right away. The cell phone would go a few more days without ringing. The dishes on the shelf would remain in the same place, and that house, full of memories and empty of presents, would continue to breathe loneliness. There is something devastating about realizing that we can disappear, and the world remains the same. That pain can scream, and no one listens. And at that moment, not even the mirror seemed to want to reflect an entire woman. It was just a sketch of who she was. And you know what's crueler? Margaret was not a victim. He expected no mercy. She was love in its raw state. He never demanded anything. He never charged. "I just wanted to be remembered with affection, to be recognized, to be called mother with the same tenderness as before." But time changes people. And often, along with the baby teeth, the children also lose sensitivity. They stop seeing their mother as someone with feelings and start treating her as an uncomfortable reminder of the past they are trying to modernize. She began to murmur stories, as if she were telling her sleeping children. He repeated the old jokes, the family stories, even the silly songs he invented at bath time. Everything echoed in the empty room, like a theater without an audience. And yet, she kept going. Because a mother's love doesn't need an audience. It just needs to exist. And this she did with mastery. The sound of the kettle in the kitchen interrupted the reverie. He got up slowly, poured water in the teapot, prepared a chamomile tea, more to calm the heart than the body. While waiting for the infusion, he opened the window. The icy wind invaded the room, and along with it came a familiar smell. The smell of childhood Christmas Eve. Cinnamon, burnt wood, fresh bread. But that wasn't on the street. It was inside her. Memory is like that. It has its own senses, your own shortcuts. Sometimes, all we need to remember who we are is to close our eyes and take a deep breath. That's what she did. For a brief moment, she felt like she was 30 years old again, holding a baby in her arms and dreaming of a future where everything would be rewarded. But the future did not fulfill what she imagined. And the tea cooled in the cup as she stared at the emptiness of the room. He thought of so many things he would like to say. Simple things: call me from time to time, show up unannounced, tell me about your day. But these simple things now seemed like grandiose requests. The kind of wish that is only asked for the shooting star, knowing that it is difficult to fulfill. Still, she kept it all inside, as if she was afraid that the world would hear and judge her frailty. For a moment, he thought about writing a letter. Not to blame, nor to charge. Just to record what I felt. A way to eternalize what was choked. But he gave up. He thought no one would read it. That perhaps it was another forgotten role between accounts and advertisements. So she did what she always did. She kept quiet. Not out of weakness, but out of dignity. Because I knew that silence also speaks. And sometimes, it is in silence that the cry of pain finds its most powerful voice. And when everything seemed to be given over to sadness, something broke the mood, a subtle sound at the door. 3 quick taps. Not strong, not urgent, but insistent. Margaret froze. For a second, he thought it was his mind playing tricks. But the sound came again. Now, sharper. He stood up slowly, his breath bated. The trembling hand reached towards the doorknob. Maybe it was the neighbor. Maybe the postman with something late. Or perhaps it was exactly what her heart had stopped expecting. The handle turned lightly, as if even the door knew that what was to come should not arrive with a bang. Margaret opened it slowly and was surprised by something she didn't expect. A child. It was none of his children. He was a little boy of about 7 years old, with a red scarf, rosy cheeks from the cold, and a look that mixed shyness and tenderness. In his hands, he held a yellowed envelope and a small gift wrapped with plain paper. "Are you Margaret?" he asked in a thin, curious voice. She answered yes, with a thread of voice. The boy held out the envelope. "My grandmother asked me to deliver this today." Not understanding, she thanked him and watched the boy run away through the snow, disappearing into the darkness of the street. Still standing at the door, she felt her heart racing. He closed it slowly, with the envelope in his hands and his thoughts in turmoil. He sat back in the armchair, pulled out his glasses and, with trembling fingers, opened the envelope. Inside, there was a letter written years ago. He recognized the handwriting right away. It was his own son, Ben, written as a teenager. How did it end up in the hands of a neighbor? Why only now? The questions were many, but the impact was even greater. The letter began with a sentence that disarmed any barrier that still remained in his chest. "Mom, I wrote this to give you for Christmas, but I never had the courage." The text was simple but honest. He spoke of gratitude, of early regret, of an admiration that he could never express in words. She said that, even growing up, even moving away, he never forgot the smell of her hug or the way she smiled even on difficult days. It was one of those confessions that we keep out of fear, but that one day explodes with wanting to leave. The letter followed with specific memories. Details she didn't even know he noticed. The way she folded her napkins, how she used a lucky wooden spoon to stir the soup, the way she hummed while sewing at night. Each line seemed to reverse the abandonment experienced in recent years. It was as if, through the words of a distant past, his soul was there, again, present. And in that instant, Margaret felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. It wasn't joy. It was recognition. It was as if someone said, "I saw you. I really saw you." At the end of the letter, Ben made it clear that he didn't know how to ask for forgiveness, but that if one day time allowed, he would return. And that, until then, he hoped she would never doubt his love. Margaret pressed the paper to her chest, her eyes teary. And then, as if in a ritualistic gesture, he opened the small package that came with the envelope. It was an old photo of the two, framed with simple wood. Behind the frame, a phrase written with a pen, "All that I am, I owe to you." She couldn't hold back her tears. But this time, they had a different taste. It was not the most expensive gift, not even the most expected, but it was the most significant. It was as if that letter had arrived to save her from an internal shipwreck. She understood at that moment that sometimes love is lost, but it does not die. That the silence of years can be broken by a forgotten role, by a memory that insisted on surviving. And that, even though it wasn't as she dreamed, there was still a spark of truth there. A tie not yet cut. A presence, even if distant, alive. She looked again at the room. Supper was cold. The candles were almost extinguished. But the environment seemed different. There was a kind of peace, as if the pain had been seen, heard, welcomed. Her Christmas was not filled by her children, but by something bigger, a confirmation that it was not in vain. That someone, somewhere, even without knowing how to return, still remembered her with reverence. And this type of souvenir is a rare, almost sacred gift. And it was in this climate of emotional rediscovery that something inside her was rekindled. Not the expectation that all the children would come back, that, perhaps, would never happen again, but the certainty that the love she gave shaped lives. That his presence was a pillar, that, even ignored, it remained relevant. With a letter in his hands, he looked at the fireplace and decided to write too. Not by answer, not out of hurt, but out of necessity. The next page of this story would begin with ink, paper, and a forgiveness she didn't even know she needed to give. Margaret slowly climbed into her room, carrying with her an antique pen, a hardcover notebook, and her son's letter she had just read. That night, which promised to be empty, now had a purpose. He sat down at the desk by the window, with a now warm cup of tea by his side, and opened the notebook to the first blank page. He took a deep breath. The ink took a long time to come out, as if even the pen needed courage. But then she began, "Dear children." And in that instant, something changed. It was not a collection letter, not even an apology. It was an act of liberation. The words came out fluid, honest, without rancor. Margaret spoke of life as it really was, hard, but full of beauty in the details. He told of when he washed clothes at dawn to pay for the milk of the week, of the nights when she sewed dresses with donated pieces of cloth, of the times when he stopped eating so that they had enough, not to generate guilt, but so that, when they read, they would know the truth clearly and tenderly. She wrote firmly but without weight, because forgiveness, when it is genuine, does not need to be clothed in pain. He dresses in peace. On each page, she not only reported, she blessed. He blessed the paths of his children, even if they were distant. He blessed the families they created. He blessed the choices he did not understand. And most of all, she freed herself from the prison of waiting. He wrote that if this was his last Christmas, he was at peace, that he didn't hold grudges, who understood that time transforms people, but that a mother's love has no expiration date. She wanted them to know that, even though they were absent, they never stopped living inside her. Margaret knew that this letter might never be read, or maybe it was found too late. But it didn't matter. The act of writing was already a reunion. It was like talking to them again, not the adults, but those children who had once hidden under her skirt in fear of thunder. He wrote for them, for the memory of what they were, for the seed she planted and that, even far away, flourished in some way. The letter was not meant to touch the conscience. It was meant to touch the soul. When he finished, he carefully folded the pages, put everything in an envelope and wrote the names of his 3 children. Then he kept it inside the Bible he had inherited from his mother. Between the pages of the book of Psalms, he left the envelope there, as if he were keeping the essence of a lifetime inside the word. And as he did so, he felt something descend from his shoulders, a weight she didn't even know she carried. It was as if that gesture sealed a cycle, not of pain but of transcendence, a love that no longer needed an answer to exist. That night, she didn't sleep, she rested. He lay down with a faint smile, his eyes still wet, but with a clean heart. He dreamed of his children, small again, running through the field, bringing flowers and laughing loudly. He woke up with the feeling that he was with them for real, as if love, even wounded, had found its way again. That letter he wrote was the hug he didn't receive. It was the "I love you" that stuck in my throat for years. And it was also the "I forgive myself" that she didn't know she needed to say to herself. Her reunion was not with her children. It was with its own history, with the woman who survived, loved, fought, and never stopped believing. And this, my friend, is a kind of miracle that does not make headlines, but saves lives. Because the true meaning of Christmas is not in the gifts, the lights, or the abundant suppers. It is in silent forgiveness, in love with no return, in the peace that only comes when we understand that we don't control what the other does, but you can decide what you carry inside you. And so, with a light soul and the house still full of memories, Margaret walked to the window, opened the curtains, and saw something she had not seen for a long time. A clear sky and a star shining alone, like a beacon in the darkness. Smiled, because, even alone, she knew she was no longer empty, and somewhere, the echo of that letter was yet to happen. The following days passed as if time had slowed down. Margaret's letter sat there, tucked away between the pages of the Bible, as a reliquary of all that she was. No one knocked on the door. No phone call came. But for the first time, it didn't destroy her. She followed her routine calmly, as if she knew that the essential had already been said, even if no one had heard it yet. And it was precisely for this reason that life decided to take one last turn, one of those that fate hides for later. It was in early January that Clara arrived at her mother's house, somewhat awkwardly, claiming that he was passing through. He brought a basket with expensive fruits, a rehearsed smile, and a restless look. As she crossed the door, she felt the dense air, as if time had stopped there, but she did not expect it. The house was silent. No food aroma, no radio sound. Only the fireplace was extinguished and natural light invaded the curtains. And it was then that he saw, on the table, the Bible open, and the envelope with your name on it. She hesitated, but something inside her told her to read. And what happened next? Not even 1,000 emotional essays could prepare. With each line of her mother's letter, Clara's eyes filled with tears. Not sadness, but of shame, of regret, of loss. It was like hearing her mother talking there, sitting next to her. It was a hug she had rejected for far too long. And when he finished, he could only repeat one sentence. Why didn't I come sooner? But the question came too late. Margaret had left 2 days earlier. Calmly, asleep, no pain, no farewell. Word spread quickly among the brothers. Andrew and Ben arrived on the same day as the burial. The words were not many, but the eyes said it all. Each received their copy of the letter, and for the first time in many years, the 3 brothers sat together in the room in silence. None of them wanted to talk about business, politics, or goals. It was as if there was only room for what really mattered: lost time, affection postponed, love not lived, and, above all, the repentance that was now greater than any inheritance. During the reading of the letter, a detail caught everyone's attention. Margaret had written that she forgave, but she also challenged them not to let love die with her, that the greatest tribute they could do was to take care of each other as she took care of them. It was the last lesson of a woman who gave her all, and departed with dignity. And in that instant, the three of them knew they couldn't let that pain go in vain. Because if they did, they would be betraying not only their mother, but everything she stood for. Andrew, the most rational, was the first to stand up. He said he would do something for his mother's memory, that he would create a foundation, or perhaps a social project in her name. Clara, her voice breaking, suggested that first of all, they should simply reconnect, to see each other again, to connect, taking care of each other. And Ben, with his face in his hands, just repeated, "We let it go." It was true. They let them. But what they still had, each other, could be redeemed. And perhaps that was the beginning of redemption. Margaret's story was not told in the newspapers. It did not go viral on social media. But inside that house, it echoed like a living sermon. A mother who did not have recognition in life, but who managed to touch the conscience of her children even after death. This is no small thing. This is great. And it forces us to think, how many Margarets are there out there? How many expect a phone call, a hug, a visit? How many have written invisible letters that have never been read? And how many of us will realize? Only when it's too late. Because at the end of the day, the greatest Christmas gift is not wrapped. There is no bow, no label. The greatest gift is time. The time that is given, the time that is shared, the time that is not postponed. Margaret taught this with her life, and reinforced it with her absence. And now, his children carried not only the guilt, but the mission to love while there is time, to speak while the voice reaches, to embrace before absence takes its place. How many times have you said, "I'll call later. Next week I'll go there. She knows I love her, I don't need to talk." Now, stop, think, and tell me, what if there is no later? What if, by one of those ironies of life, the time you always thought you would have, simply end? Margaret's story is just one of thousands. But the truth is, somewhere near you, there's someone waiting for exactly what she's been waiting for. A call, a visit, a word of affection. And maybe that person doesn't say anything. It does not cover. Don't complain. Just keep loving in silence. And the silence, my friend, it is the loudest sound of longing. It's easy to get lost in the world of commitments, deadlines, goals, bills. But no one lies on their deathbed wishing they had worked harder. What really matters are the hugs we didn't give, the words we didn't say, the looks we ignored. You don't need much to change that. A message, a simple gesture. I remembered you today. This is worth more than any expensive gift. And if you think it's too late, know that it's never too late to love. It's never too late to ask for forgiveness. It's never too late to start over, unless you wait too long. Maybe now you're remembering someone. It can be a father, a mother, a grandfather, an aunt, or even a friend who has moved away. Do not ignore this memory. The heart has its own warnings. And when he whispers a name, it's because something inside still pulsates. Life is fragile, and time is merciless. But you're still here. You still can. And if you can, why don't you do it? Pride has destroyed more families than any war. But humility, when it comes, rebuilds what seemed lost. Do you know what's beautiful about this whole story? Margaret didn't need anything grandiose. She just wanted the basics that every human being deserves: presence, affection, recognition, and deep down, that's what we all want too. The question is, have you offered this to anyone? Or are you waiting for the world to treat you well before you do your part? Change starts with you. And it starts now. An attitude, a gesture, a decision. Because when love becomes action, it changes destinies. And it saves stories that were almost lost. It's time to look within, to reflect, to act. Maybe you think everything is fine, that there is nothing to fix. But look deeper. Remember that last conversation, that postponed lunch, that "I love you" that got stuck in your throat? These details, ignored, become ghosts. And they become too late when the chair is already empty. So do it while you can. Say it while you listen. Love while there is still time. And if this story touched you, don't keep it to yourself. Spread. Share. Because maybe it reaches someone who is about to lose everything due to lack of attention. Someone who needs to wake up. Someone who can still choose differently. That can still save history itself. Remember, a simple "I was thinking of you" can prevent a heart from breaking. It can prevent another Margaret from fading away in silence. This is not just a Christmas story. It is an everlasting reminder about gratitude, about family, about the time that doesn't come back, and about love that, when it is not shown, turns into lament. May you never need a loss to realize the value of a presence. May you learn to take care before needing to repent. That you don't wait for Christmas to make yourself present, because real presence has no date. It has intention. Now that you know this story, tell me honestly, how many times have you left that phone call for later? That visit? That "I love you" who choked up because pride spoke louder? What is preventing you from doing now what your heart has been asking for so long? The time, the shame, or the illusion that there will always be time later? The truth is simple, but difficult to face. Time waits for no one. And when we realize, what remains are memories stained by regret. So I invite you to do something today. Think about who might be feeling like Margaret. It can be your mother, your father, a grandfather, an aunt, even a friend who has moved away. Write, call, appear. Don't wait for Christmas. Don't wait for the end. Because sometimes the most valuable gift costs nothing. It only costs you to be there. Now tell me, who is your Margaret? Who do you need to rescue before silence takes the place of love? If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel right now. Activate the bell to continue receiving stories that move the soul. And send this video to someone you love. It might be just what they need to hear today.